Hello, are you feeling spooktacularly spooky? I am recommending you books today that will be perfect to read over the spoopy spooky season. Basically, autumn/October/Halloween/November as well. These are books that I think fit perfectly into the kind of atmosphere at this time of year. I hope you agree. I am super excited to share them with you. Some of them are actually on my TBR, so I haven't actually read them yet, or at least at the time of filming this, I haven't read them yet. And some of them I have read and really enjoyed in previous years around this time of the year. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and hopefully you can walk away from this with some good autumnal spoopy/spooky recommendations. By the way, if you're thinking, what is she going about with spoopy? It is basically like cute spooky, which I definitely have some good examples of on this list. I'm going to start off with some graphic novel recommendations, first of which is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. Apparently, this video is going to be me stumbling over words. I think it's pretty clear why I've included this one in a recommendations video for this time of year, because it's just screaming autumn. You can't not read this during the autumnal period. It's literally set in a pumpkin patch, and it follows these two kids on the front and their relationship with each other throughout this big pumpkin patch/autumnal holiday festive experience, which is somewhere I really want to go. It's a very quick read. As it is a graphic novel, you can probably read it in 1 or 2 sittings. I enjoyed it. I didn't absolutely love it. However, atmospheric, it ticks all the boxes, so for that reason it's in this recommendations video. The next two are graphic novels that feature vampires in a romance sense. I haven't read either of these yet at the time of filming. They are on my TBR for October. I couldn't not add them into this video. We have got Letters for Liccardo by Ottavia Hekila, and we've also got Fangs by Sarah Anderson. These are both romance graphic novels, as I said. This one just looks really, really cute and kind of comic book-esque. It's a romance between a vampire and a werewolf, and this one is about a romance between one vampire and I think a mortal man, and how that kind of integrates into the whole vampire thing. Both of them look super, super cute, and I just think they fall perfectly into the category of books to read around this time of year. I cannot wait to read both of these. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love them both. Then I have got Mooncakes by Wendy Zhu and Suzanne Walker, and I have been very excited to read this one. This screams autumn to me, and it follows two people. One is a witch and one is a wolf, and the wolf is being hunted for some kind of dark magic, and I think they form a friendship. It looks so wholesome on the cover. I am very, very, very hyped to read this one. I really hope it lives up to expectations. I just think this screams autumn, so of course it's going to be in this TBR, but also the fact that we've got a witch, we've got a wolf, we're getting lots of Halloween dress-up ideas already with this book, and I really enjoy the bright, colourful illustration style as well. I think it's going to be a magical, wild ride. Next up, we've got The Sad Ghost Club by Liz or Liz Meddings. This is a graphic novel again. This is, I think, my final graphic novel. Yes, my final graphic novel. I think that this one talks about mental health through this sad little ghost, but oh my gosh, it's just so cute, and I think it's going to be a really important one. I bought this when I was in a little bit of a lonely way, and I thought it might help, and I haven't read it yet, but because it's got a ghostie on the front of it, of course I'm going to be reading it in October. So this is my final graphic novel recommendation slash have you heard about this book, because it would be great to read in the season. Okay, next up, I could not include Mina and the Undead by Amy McCall. I love this book. It follows Mina, who has gone to New Orleans to stay with her sister, and she is really into the book Interview with the Vampire, and just generally finds herself being lured towards that kind of thing and finds it all really interesting. So she's very much intrigued when people start turning up dead around her. Well, intrigued is probably a kind of sadistic word, but she's kind of starts looking into it when people start turning up dead around her, because her sister has basically been accused of the murders because someone's been found with a clump of her hair in their hand. So she goes on to investigate this. This is set in the 90s, which makes it very refreshingly phone free, which I love about this, and it just really sinks into pop culture. So if you're after that kind of thing with vampires, give this one a go. Another series that kind of goes into New Orleans after it's been to 2 other locations is Victoria Schwab's City of Ghosts. This is the first of 3 currently released, and I love these so much. These are middle grades. They follow Cassidy Blake, who has basically had a near-death experience, which means she can see ghosts as they're trying to move on to whatever it is after their ghosts. And she basically has a ghost best friend, and they go around trying to help these ghosts move on, at the same time as following her parents around on a tour they're doing as part of a ghost hunter TV show. I just love it so much. I love the characters and the relationships, and also the themes we have running throughout this series. The atmosphere is fantastic. We've got one set in Scotland, one set in France, is it? And the other one is set in New Orleans. So it's just brilliant, all over the place in terms of setting, and some familiar characters to guide you throughout. It's perfect for this time of year, and they're such quick reads too. My next recommendation is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I had to include this one because it is a staple for the gothic horror genre. This is pretty much one of the OG gothic horror books, and it follows our main character Catherine Morland, who goes to this very big strange house, and her imagination kind of runs away with her, and we see her just kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole with how big and creepy and eerie this house is and the people that she's there with. I read this one as an audiobook and really enjoyed it. I think it might have had a couple of different members of cast, if I remember rightly. It was a couple of years ago, but I really wanted to read this one ever since I studied Gothic at school and never actually, for some reason, read this one. So definitely add this one to your list. It's super short, so it's not too intimidating. If you did want to ever try any Jane Austen, it's certainly a good place to start. Next up is a book I read last year and absolutely loved, and that is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. The atmosphere in this book is so good. It feels very dark and creepy and mysterious. It follows a main character, Inez, who is in this house, Catherine House, and starts to question why she's here and what the house is actually doing to the people in it. It's basically a school that you are invited into and can only get in that way, and people don't really tend to leave. There's definitely something eerie and weird surrounding Catherine House, and I absolutely found it so gripping to find out what that was. Also, I enjoyed the fact that whilst this is a fairly short book, we see a couple of years take place here as we see the students go through their schooling years. So it's really interesting because it's constantly changing the perspective from which we're looking at in terms of time rather than character, which makes it really different type of read, so I absolutely love this one. Next up is one that I am appalled that I have not read yet, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I tried to read this a couple of years ago, and I was on a reading retreat holiday at the time with a lot of other content creators, and it was too much to try and concentrate on this because we were all chatting and stuff as well. And whilst I did read a lot on that holiday, this just wasn't sinking into my brain, so I put it down. I literally only read about 50 pages and will go back to it. I really want to pick this one up. This is sounding very dark, very mysterious. It's a dark academia, murder mystery, Ivy League school murders are happening. Our main character is investigating why, and investigating into these secret societies that seem to somehow be linked to deaths. So I definitely want to get to this. I know it's super dark and comes with a lot of trigger warnings, so if you do want to pick this one up, do make sure to check those out because I think there is quite an extensive list. But I just haven't got to it yet, and I don't know why, because it sounds so good and right up my street. I'm really thinking November might be the month for me to read this one. Next we've got Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. I have been specifically told to save this for autumn, which is what I have done. I'm hoping to be able to listen to the audiobook for this one either in October or November. I haven't got it on my Spoopathon TBR, but it's like a reserved choice to slot in if I can, and if not, it's definitely going on my November TBR. This, I think, is a romance, and it's a fantasy, kind of paranormal fantasy, in which our main character somehow summons a ghost who is like the resident bad boy, and this ghost wants to find out what happened to him and why he died. And he basically wants to tie up those loose ends before he moves on, and the longer he stays, the longer our main character actually doesn't want him to move on. So I have heard great things about this, and I have got the audiobook saved and ready to go. It's just a case of slotting it into the right TBR for me at the moment, I think, but it seems like it's going to be really good for this time of year, and the fact that I've been told to specifically wait until this time of year to read it makes me even more excited. Then we have got Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is again another staple of the gothic horror genre. This is a haunted house type of thing as well, in which our main character goes to marry a man that she's really not known for very long, and she goes to live at his house, and she finds out that his ex-wife unfortunately passed away and he is a widower, and she senses the presence of this ex-wife around the house. Now this one is on my October TBR and I'm daunted by this. I may well have read it by the time you're watching this video. I don't know how quickly I'm going to be getting through this TBR, but I really hope I love this because I adore the Hitchcock film, and I've been waiting to watch the new film on Netflix with Lily James until I've read it. So once I've read it, I'm going to watch that film. Maybe that'll be a Halloween film for me to watch over the weekend of Halloween. but I am daunted by this. I just hope I really like it. Next up, I have got The Coven by Lizzie Fry. This is one I actually received an unsolicited proof of, and I haven't unfortunately got around to reading this one yet, but I thought this sounded too good not to include in this recommendations video because it's all around witches and also women power. It follows a world in which witches are posing a threat seemingly to men, except they're not really. That is just the thought of the president, who has decided to start imprisoning witches and is making it dangerous to even be a woman, and is basically trying to silence all their voices. And this follows one specific character who has got this like untapped power that she's just discovered within her, and she won't go down without a fight, and is kind of rallying the women together to show how much power they all have and why this is not okay. So it sounds kind of like it's got elements of dystopia in there, as well as obviously the fantasy with the witchcraft. I am very intrigued to read this, and maybe again this might be one I try and stick on my November TBR, but I thought it was a little bit different and one that I haven't seen floating about too much, so I thought I would stick it within this autumnal witchy spoopy recommendations video. And finally, one of my favourite books on this recommendations video, and I absolutely loved this one when I read it last year, is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I think I actually was reading this on Halloween last year. It's so good. It's such a good gothic horror. It follows someone whose cousin has recently been married, and she's kind of getting bad vibes and her cousin isn't very well, so our main character goes to stay with her cousin to try and work out what's happening and if she's okay, basically. And she gets swept up in a mess of weirdness, of gothic horror, of creepy things, of just a lot of messed up stuff in trying to help her cousin, and it had me on the edge of my seat. It was definitely ticking all the boxes for creepy gothic horror. Perfect for around this time of year, and so atmospheric as well. Like, I can still see this book now, and it's been a year since I've read it, so I would really highly advise checking this one out if you are looking to get into the gothic horror genre for autumn and Halloween. So those are all my spooky, spoopy, autumnal, Halloweeny recommendations. It's basically just a broad recommendations list. Hopefully there was something here for everyone. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up, comment down below what you will be reading this season, and subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. By the time you're watching this, I will be well into Spoopathon, which is a really exciting month-long readathon hosted by Spoopy Hall. I'm so excited. I'm filming this right at the end of September, so I haven't started my TBR or anything yet, so I really hope I'm doing well with it. But hopefully you've enjoyed these recommendations. Hopefully I'm enjoying reading some of them that have been on my TBR that I've hopefully read by the point that you're watching this. If you did want any more content from me or little behind the scenes snippets as to how I'm getting on with my TBR, I have a Patreon link down below where you can get lots of extra stuff from me. There's behind the scenes things, podcast, reading vlogs, dedicated reading vlogs, and there's also live shows and a Discord. There's loads of fun things. Our book club as well is where we'll be reading The Once and Future Witches, which is hopefully going to be a perfect autumnal October read again. I feel like I've said that a million times in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Always means the world to me. Thank you guys very much. Keep smiling and stay positive.